Welcome. Tonight, we step gently back in time, beyond the marble temples and golden busts of emperors, to walk in the silence between columns. In the long shadows of history's forgotten millions, this is not the Rome of triumphal parades, of thundering chariots, or soaring rhetoric. This is the Rome that whispered, that endured, and that toiled, the Rome built not by emperors, but by unseen hands, by those who were there but seldom mentioned, those who rose early and slept late, who served, not ruled. As you settle in and let the sounds of the present soften, imagine yourself beneath a Roman sun, or under the flicker of lamplight, in a world of structured control, quiet obedience, and whispered routine. This is the story of what it was really like to be a Roman slave, a story of labor, of stillness, of quiet strength, and of moments where hope flickered, just for a moment, before vanishing again. Let us begin with the daily rhythm, not of a noble, but of you. Imagine yourself waking before the dawn, not in a room of your own, but in a cramped, shared space off the corridor of a Roman villa, tucked behind the kitchen near the scent of ash and stored olives. There is no pillow beneath your head, only a folded cloth, no privacy, no pause. Only the murmurs of others rising with you, a rhythm not of choice, but necessity. You are a familia servorum, a household slave. You belong to this place, not like a guest might, or even a resident. You are owned by it, as much as the ladle or the broom. The stone floor beneath your feet is always cold, even in summer. The walls around you hold the chill of night like a secret. You pull on your tunic, a simple garment coarse against your skin, one you didn't choose and won't replace until it falls apart. Before the first rays of suncrest, the tiled rooftops, the villa stirs. Not with chatter, not with laughter, but with quiet movements, pacing, readying, anticipating. You light the kitchen fire, if you are among the early ones, or prepare the bath's warm water, or fetch the first jugs of wine to breathe. Your hands move through muscle memory now. You know when the lady of the house prefers to rise, and what bread the children will eat. You know which cups to polish and which cushions to fluff. And always, in your bones, you carry the tension of being watched, not always seen, but always known. Every object you touch is not yours, every task assigned, every hour occupied. You may be sent out to the market today, or to sweep the atrium where guests might arrive. You may assist in the bathhouse, where you will keep your eyes low, your voice lower. Or you may be called into the private chamber, where silence is expected and presence invisible. And still, the hours stretch onward. No fixed ending, no final bell. You do not leave your shift. You live within it. Meals, when permitted, are taken quickly. Bread, lentils, perhaps olives, if permitted. There is no choice, only what remains from the master's table. You sit not in the dining room, but behind the door, and if summoned mid-bite, you rise without hesitation. Occasionally, there is laughter, not yours, but theirs. A joke you cannot respond to, a gesture you must not interrupt. You smile when expected, nod when needed, and vanish when no longer required. And the nights, they are not your own. If another slave falls ill, you may be given double tasks. If a guest arrives late, you may wait long after others sleep. If nothing goes wrong, you rest, but still lightly, because any sound might pull you from your sleep. Even your dreams know to be quiet. This life, day after day, is not marked by events, but by repetition. The sweep of a broom, the turning of a knob, the careful pouring of wine into a cup not meant for you. You do not choose your path, but you walk it with care, because mistakes have consequences, and quiet obedience keeps the peace. And so, the villa lives, breathing, bustling, glistening under the Roman sun, held up silently by those who are never written into the marble. And you rise again tomorrow, long before the sun, with the rhythm of your role deep in your bones. There were few moments in Roman history when the quiet murmur of servitude turned into a roar. But one such moment, short-lived and ultimately crushed, lives on in whispers and worry. The name Spartacus is remembered in stone, in scroll, in drama. Yet beneath the bold name lies a quieter story of desperation, of brutal necessity, and of hope that flickered too brightly for too long. Let us step into that moment, not as Spartacus himself, but again, as someone like you. You live in Alutus, a training school for gladiators. It is different from the villa. Still confined, still watched. But here, your days are not spent polishing silver or tending vineyards. Here, your sweat is spilled in the sand, and sometimes, so is your blood. Your body is fed, trained, strengthened, not for your own benefit, but to entertain others. You fight not for victory, but for their applause. And while the arena looms large in public imagination, it is not the arena that defines your life. It is the grind before it, the repetition, the aching limbs, the silent understanding that each day you survive is a kind of victory in itself. Spartacus, he began as one of you, a Thracian by birth, taken, trained, beaten, hardened. He had fought for Rome and against it, and in the ludus at Capua, something shifted. The story is told in fragments. That a small band of gladiators plotted to escape, that they found knives in the kitchen, that they stole cleavers, skewers, whatever they could hold, that guards were overwhelmed, that others joined, that Spartacus, along with Crixus and Inamos, led them into the countryside. You may have heard these stories. You may have seen the flickers of hope in the eyes of those near you, or felt your own heartbeat quicken when the news came that they were free, that they had defeated Roman patrols, that they were growing in number, that perhaps there was a way out. Tens of thousands eventually followed him, escaped slaves, farmhands, former soldiers, men and women with no other place to go. For a time, the Roman legions faltered. They underestimated him, and Spartacus won again and again. But hope, when too loud, draws attention. Eventually, Rome responded, and this time, not with underestimation, with force, with command, with discipline. The defeat came in waves, first at the edges, then deeper, until the final battle near the river Silarus. Some say Spartacus fell there, surrounded by bodies. Others say he vanished, unfound, unclaimed. You, watching from the margins, might not know the outcome for weeks, only that those who followed him were crucified, lined along the Appian Way, hundreds upon hundreds, a warning as silent as it was cruel. Hope in the world of Roman slavery was a dangerous flame, and yet, even crushed, the revolt left echoes. Laws changed slowly. Fears whispered in Senate halls. And for those who lived beneath chains, the memory remained. A man who stood, even briefly, not as property, but as defiance. Still, in the villa, the routine resumed. The bread was baked, the oil poured, the masters sat, the servants bowed. But sometimes, when the wind shifted, when a visitor spoke too loud, or when someone glanced too long at the road outside, you might wonder if somewhere someone remembered, not the rebellion, but the moment before, the moment it almost changed. In the quiet corners of Roman homes, far from the noise of public baths and the roar of marketplaces, something softer lingered. Not the sound of sandals on marble, or the rustle of togas in the atrium, but the whisper of incense, the flicker of a tiny flame, the silence of belief held close. Even in a world of gods paraded through streets and worshipped in great temples, there were smaller devotions, unseen, humble, and deeply personal. These were the Laurea, the household shrines of ancient Rome. If you lived in a Roman home, even as a slave, you would know the place. It might be tucked into the corner of the kitchen or carved into a wall niche near the dining area. A small altar, Perhaps no more than a shelf or a painted square. But there, each day, the rhythm of spiritual life repeated, almost unnoticed. The Lares, protective spirits of the household. The Penates, guardians of the pantry, the hearth, the family's sustenance. These figures, small and stylized, were honored not with grand ceremonies, but with tiny daily gestures. A cup of wine poured out. A morsel of bread set aside. A garland of flowers hung loosely. Incense lit until the air turned sweet and slow. You may have watched your master perform these rituals, or you may have done them yourself, quietly, as instructed. Even if you did not believe, you participated, because the home itself believed. And sometimes, when no one was watching, you might have bowed your own head. For many slaves, the Lararium was both a reminder and a refuge. You were not included in the family's line, not truly, but you were there every day. And in this small space, there was at least rhythm, predictability, something constant in a world that often shifted beneath your feet. Others carried their own beliefs, foreign gods. Eastern rituals. Whispered prayers from homelands long forgotten by others, but still living in the corners of memory. A carved token hidden beneath straw. A whispered name before sleep. A moment of stillness before dawn. Roman religion was a public affair, full of spectacle, sacrifice, and priestly processions. But within the home, faith became quiet. Not entirely private, but more personal. Way to maintain order, honor, and hope, especially in a world where so much was uncertain. You might remember certain days, the calends, the nones, and the ides. Roman calendar markers when offerings were made more formally. Or parentalia, when ancestors were honored with flowers and food. During those times, even the villa slowed slightly. Not for your benefit, but still a shift, a softness. Sometimes, belief was performative. A way to show devotion to Rome's ideals, to remind others of order, duty, hierarchy. But sometimes, belief was genuine. A flickering flame in a quiet home. A whispered name in the dark. And so, in the life of a Roman slave, defined by structure, repetition, and ownership, there remained a corner, however small, where something older lived. Not freedom, not voice, but something within reach. Something to bow before, to serve, willingly. A gesture of peace in a world so often absent of it. From the cramped servants' quarters and silent shadows of the villa, let us now rise carefully, slowly into the marble halls of the Roman elite. Imagine the life of a senator, a man of prestige, wrapped in finely woven togas edged with purple. His home wide and echoing. His footsteps quiet against polished mosaic floors. The villa, no longer a place of labor, but a symbol of status. Grandeur that whispers instead of shouts. To see him is to witness structure in human form. He rises early, though not from obligation, but from habit. Even luxury carries its own rituals. Servants draw his bath, comb his hair, arrange his garments, not for his comfort, but for what they represent: order, Roman dignity, and the timelessness of hierarchy. His morning is consumed by letters, wax tablets with careful etchings. Scrolls bearing the words of allies, rivals, distant governors. Each reads slowly, each answer dictated while reclining, his hand never touching ink. The act of correspondence is both duty and display, a demonstration of influence and intellect. Then come the visitors. Clients, petitioners, men of lesser status who arrive to greet him at dawn in hopes of favor. They stand, he remains seated. Their words are calculated, respectful. His responses are measured, not rushed, not cold, but practiced. This is not conversation. This is theater. When he steps into the Curia, the Senate House, his walk is deliberate. The steps echo off marble, his toga adjusted just so. Around him, the air is thick with expectation, not emotion. Here, words are weapons. He does not shout. He speaks. His oration is slow, rhythmic, and calm. A performance of logic draped in formality. He knows his audience, and each phrase is placed like a stone in a road, meant to last, not impress. Debates stretch long, but they are not chaotic. Each voice waits its turn. The order of speaking, the raising of hands, the nods of agreement, these are as practiced as a ritual sacrifice. Afterward, perhaps a meal, not hurried, not gluttonous. Dishes arrive in courses. Music plays softly. Slaves serve in silence. The senator does not thank them. They're part of the scenery, efficient, invisible. Yet beneath the calm of his life lies a different kind of pressure. Not the crack of a master's voice, but the weight of legacy, reputation, ancestry. He is expected to live not for himself, but for his name. One scandal, one failed speech, one poor alliance, and the marble floor can turn cold. The invitations might stop. The smiles turn brittle. The Senate forgets quickly. Even luxury has its chains. His nights are quiet. He walks the garden with hands folded. Thinks on Cicero, or war in the East, or a marriage to arrange. Sometimes he watches the moonlight fall over the colonnade, the shadows long, the torchlight flickering, and he listens. Not for enemies, but for silence. For confirmation that the structure of Rome, of power, of identity, still holds. And as he retires to bed, behind thick curtains and perfumed linens, the house still hums with the movement of others. Servants unseen, guards quiet in their stations, candles still burning. Above it all, Rome rests. A city of stone and structure, of voices and silence, of power and of those who serve it. And so the senator sleeps, not easily, but steadily. For tomorrow, again, the performance will begin. And now, as the lamps flicker low in the Roman villa and the rain of memory softens to mist, we find ourselves drifting away from the stone corridors of the past. You have walked through the day of a Roman slave, from cold floors and quiet mornings to the careful balancing act of duty and silence. You've watched as a rebellion rose and fell, a spark in the darkness that briefly lit the idea of freedom. You've stood before a small shrine, incense curling into the still air, wondering whose prayers were heard and whose were forgotten. And you've walked through the marble hush of elite chambers, where power wore soft sandals and spoke in measured tones. The Roman Empire is often remembered for its roads, its armies, its emperors carved in white stone. But its true weight, the hum beneath its grandeur, was carried by quiet hands, by lives unseen, voices unrecorded, by those who rose before the sun and lay down long after it set. Their presence was not loud, but it was constant. And now, in the hush of your own room, with the noise of the present slowly fading, you may begin to feel what they lived, not in the facts alone, but in the rhythm, the gentle repetition, the slow unfolding of days, the stillness inside structure. Time softens, as it always does. And so you rest, as they did, not in palaces or temples, but in the quiet spaces history rarely writes about and always remembers. Good night.